Hey everyone, it's summertime and I am your host, Summer Hill. And today we're going to have a conversation about relationships. I'm here with Christian, Red, and Tune. And we're not having the Twitter conversation that's like, who should pay for or what. Like, that's not what we're doing here. We're going to really unpack and break down the dynamics between men and women right now. So I just want to let you all know that it's not a me versus you in this conversation. It's not a men versus women. Like, I'm really trying to hear from you all so that we can work together to heal and to be more harmonious. Cool.
Right.
So if it sounds like I'm attacking y'all, I promise y'all I'm not. I am speaking of a place of pain though. Like there is pain here, so I'll preface with that, just being vulnerable. But yeah, let's get into it. So I'll go through, let you all introduce yourself, and then I want you all to tell me why you all wanted to be a part of this conversation. And whoever can start first.
Okay. Well, I'll start. Just keep it simple. My name is Toon. As some introduced me, I'm a multimedia artist and owner of a production company centered around basically just introducing my people, my community, my culture to market without whoring ourselves through the system. And just trying to get resources, collect the resources that really matter, metaphysical, you feel me, material, whatever. And I wanted to come on here and talk about love because recently I've been doing some advancing as far as my spirit and my whole context around love and how much power could really come from it. I just wanted to, you feel me, represent my side a little better than I feel like the media normally do us. Like,
Okay,
it.
that's a good point. We're gonna get into that. Okay, Red.
Well, my name is Red. I'm a journalist. I'm a community-based dude like Toon. And I love your answer, bro. Like love is real powerful. And I think that is something that our community needs because we don't have the right idea about it. That's why I want to be on here for sure.
Okay.
Um, my name is Christian. By day, I do government consulting, but by night, I do photography. I just wanted to come on here, similar to both Red and Tune, but I just wanted to give my perspective. You know, I feel like I'm in a pouring into myself era chapter of my life right now. So I just wanted to come and give my thoughts.
Okay, good. Well, thank you all for being here and giving your thoughts and sharing your opinions. And I really like what you said about like how the media is portraying you all. So how do you think the media is portraying you all and how do you think that's different than actuality?
It's a couple different things for real. It's a effeminate version, I feel like, being presented for the sake of like softening blows as far as how we can come off on TV. It's either it really feel like it's polarized. They feel like either we over aggressive, all we think about is money and murder and blah say blah say blah, or you super effeminate and you soft enough for us to approach around certain topics. Now we can place you in whatever context we need to.
Like what do you mean?
Like for example, we could talk about the basis of what Cat Williams be saying with like, all right, they be wearing a dress. It's been said before, but that's the most recent. Um, it's always a centered black actor, I feel like, that is placed in a lot of roles. He's made to be the multi-tool for black men for a second, like real quick. And they always try and I feel like shape that image to be weaker so that it's
Mm,
moldable rather than letting his character really shape itself. Like
mm.
it becomes a weird dynamic is what I'm trying to say.
So, if I'm understanding correctly, it sounds like you're saying that when there is like a black man in the limelight, they try to make him appear weak,
Yeah.
a weak character.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it don't even gotta be in the limelight. It's real live on your obscure TV shows. Either it's this hardened black man that's not really trying to hear shit, or it's like, bro, this nigga's a bitch. Like he's
Mm.
real, not talking about nothing every time he on screen. Like
Do you think that's the media portraying it, or do you think that's the person?
both, because the media cast who they want to. The media
Okay.
knows exactly who they want to play that role.
So, like, let me get you because you sound like a bitch.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
like if I'm being point blank honest, and it don't even gotta be like he's a bitch per se. Like that might be a little harsh, but you're moldable. Like we can real live
Mm,
get you to be what we need you to be. You want to be a star. You get what I'm saying? Like
okay.
that's enough of a goal to incentivize people to change their character.
Okay. And what about you two? What do you think the media, how do you think the media portrays love, black men in love?
I think the media is always going to represent what corporate interests are. And corporate interests are trying to use people, and specifically black men, to generate revenue. off of their entertainment value. Like, how can we portray this man to make him sing and dance on stage, and everybody else gonna be like, this is the way y'all should be, because it generates some kind of like attention on this character, this archetype. And that archetype is not reflective of reality. Like, we are very nuanced people. We have so much differences among us, but that difference would like create some sense of humanity in us, and they don't want that. They don't want us to be real. They want us to be like robotic in a box. Like he was saying, like they want us to be compartmentalized so that we can easily be processed, and that the younger generation specifically can be like, all right, well, these are the examples of men that I have. So we got to be just like this. And it's already happening. It happens quick. So I think the media is always going to be a tool for corporate interest, especially as media and journalism and news is hollowed out and filled in by corporate interests. I mean, if you look at a lot of these companies like NBC, for example, owned by Comcast Universal, like what happened to the real like integrity of these networks, right? It's filled in by corporations, and corporations are not alive. They have interests of profit generation. So that profit generation is always going to prioritize something that's sensational or even unrealistic, like totally like fantasy. And we could see that. But everybody else don't see that. They don't know. They're not part of the culture. They're not immersed. Or they don't even know people. Like, think about it like this. The average, like, let's say a white person, whatever, they don't know black people. Like, they literally don't even have a friend or somebody they know that knows a black person. So they image of a black person is what they see.
And what does that image portray, in your opinion, of a black man?
It's the extremes. Like you was saying, like it's either very effeminate or like a clown or like a stereotypical thug type shit. So it's like the total extremes to us is like comedy. That's why we be laughing at it. It's like, yo, no way that y'all really think this.
Right.
But they do. And that's not just trivial. That's very useful for them because that allows them to shape narratives, shape politics. I mean, identity politics is like the biggest thing right now. So this is all very intentional, and it allows them to shape and control what people believe. And this culture wars thing between men and women is specifically to divide us so that they can use us, so that they can use us to be laborers, so that they can discourage families and discourage relationships, togetherness. A man and a woman together, a black family unit, is the most powerful thing on earth.
Okay, we're going to get into that. There's a few things that you said that I want to get into, but I want to first hear what you think, how the media portrays black men.
Yeah, I think the media, paints us, they try to make it seem like we're a monolith, right? And just as Red said, it's like, yo, there's so much more nuances to just what meets the eye, right? And I think another thing, like you said, like these corporations are trying to paint a picture, right? So I think, we've all seen it. Any chance that they get to tear a black man down or paint them to be overly aggressive or overly feminine, or, there's no real fine line between the two. It's either one or the other. So I think that, like you said, it's a domino effect, because it's like even our generation, we pay attention to it. People are trying to fit this. They're trying to fit the mold to make it seem like almost a facade. You know what I'm saying? Because of what we're seeing on social media, because of what we're seeing, we're trying to match that same speed, right? But it's like, yo, not everyone wants to fit that mold. Like, that's not who we really are. Like, they're not painting us for who we really are. It's what they want people to believe we are.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
So do you think that image that they're painting, who is their audience? Do you think it's for white people to see how you all are? Because I would say that me as a black woman, I know what's real and what's not about how a black man is, right? So who is their audience? Who are they trying to convince?
It's consumers, people who watch things, people who scroll on social media and learn the world that way, as opposed to experience. So not that we are post-race in America, we are not at all. But we are in a place where people have a similar experience of the world because they watching it through their phone. And social media is developed by algorithms. And algorithms can be shaped and molded to fit either a narrative or to fit what they want you to see. So back before social media or even like television, radio, people, it was all word of mouth because they were so segregated that they literally never crossed paths.
Right.
So now it's like, well, I can see what y'all are doing, but it's like that's what the algorithm wants you to see. So it's still not a true experience, but because it's video, like this cannot be understated how much social media impacts the way people believe and feel about things because it's political.
Mm-hmm.
So now our experiences are all based on what we see, and what we see is totally controlled. So yeah, I just realized that it's something that is totally deliberate when it comes to like dividing us in that way. But now, especially when it comes to, like progressive politics and stuff, it's like, oh, okay, like we all on the same page, like we all equal and stuff. It's like, yo, obviously not. But people really do believe that on both sides of the spectrum, let's say.
Yeah.
So it makes it seem like, oh, everything's good because what I see is good and reflective of what I
Mhm.
believe. But there's 8 billion people on earth. Like, you really think it's that black and white? It's not.
Right.
Right.
But if we were to center the conversation back into love, right? My disconnect with men is not based off how the media portrays y'all. While I do agree that, there could be a way better way that they portray both black men and black women, my disconnect with men is because of my experiences with them. So I feel like us blaming the media is lacking some accountability
Mhm.
in how men and women can improve in society, right?
Yeah.
So luckily for y'all, last night I was reading Bell Hooks and I was like, let me just get prepared for this conversation, right? It's a book called Communion. And I got to the chapter last night. It was perfect timing where she was saying that I was blaming men for my lack of understanding of love. She was like, I didn't get it either. So I wasn't loving correctly either. And I was like, okay, I'm so glad I read this last night because I was in here ready to argue, y'all. But we're not going to argue because I understand that it's both of us. But what do you think men can be doing to take more accountability for the disconnect between men and women as it involves love?
Right. I think it's exactly what we're doing right now. Like us bringing awareness to the medium. Like we're on the medium of a podcast, so we're sharing how we're informing ourselves around this context. Like how we feel like we've been portrayed is reflective through an echo chamber. So yes, you're gonna come in contact with black men that do subscribe to how they're portrayed, other consumers, other people that are, you feel me, lost. There's a lost society that comes along with everybody. And what's really lost first and foremost is love. Like it's a love for themselves, it's a love for each other. So without preserving or building that type of, I want to say, just sentiment within each other, like
Mhm.
that's always going to be the case. There's not going to be people that love themselves enough to love someone else.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that.
Mm.
I'm so glad you said that because that's exactly what it seems like it is. And then I wonder where that stems from. Like,
Mm.
why do these men lack love for themselves?
Mm.
So many in our
Oh,
community.
that's a deep.
I mean, I think
It
that's
goes
part
back.
of where I think part of that comes from the media,
Mm.
right? Like, and I'm not saying I'm putting that as the answer because, like I said, I'm in this self love, pouring into myself, putting me at the essence of my needs and decision making.
Who was it before?
The people in my community,
Mm.
the people in my village.
And how did that show up in your life actually?
Um, it
Like,
was
what
tough.
kind of decisions were you making that you could tell you weren't putting yourself first, but instead you were putting somebody else?
I mean, one example was I had to. I was taking care of my brother,
Mm-hmm.
right? It started with that. He was in a position where, he needed some support and help, and like I was there to provide that for him. But ultimately, it was like I was having a hard time taking care of myself.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
it was hard for me to take care of him.
Mm-hmm.
But I was doing whatever I could. But it's like I wasn't seeing because I was on the inside looking out, not on the outside looking in.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that it was taking away from myself. And
Yeah.
that's just, that's a platonic, family relationship. But I feel like it still, bleeds into other relationships that we have too, whether that be romantic or platonic. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Mhm.
if I don't know how to take care of myself, how can I take care of those around me? And I think
Yeah.
that's what the romantic part of it is too. It's like men from the media, from our communities that we grow up in. Like I'm a Caribbean Africa. I'm a first generation Caribbean American. You know what I'm saying? Growing up in the Caribbean, young boys can't show emotion. You know what I'm saying? They've been
Or here.
conditioned, right? They've been conditioned to be like, yo, if you show emotion, you're a pussy.
Right.
Excuse my French. You know what I'm
You
saying?
can
If you
you
show
can French.
emotion, you're a bitch.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like we have to realize, or I had to realize, like, yo, if I'm not pouring into myself, if I'm not operating from a high vibration, it's like, yo, how I expect the people around me to operate from a high vibration too.
That's a good point, and I appreciate that you brought that up because men, we like when I look for the man that I want, I'm looking for someone who can guide me and someone who could protect me, someone who could lead me. And if you're not in a place where you're able to pour into yourself, or you're not in a place where you're doing at a high vibration, you're guiding us off the, you know what I'm saying? Like
It's
in the
exactly
wrong
that.
direction. But on the same hand, like your job, men's job, in my opinion, is to protect the family, right? And so there's a lot of pressure on men to do that. And I'm sure that pressure really impacts yourselves. And like, how can you protect everyone around you if you don't even love yourself, right? So back to the loving yourself, what do you think in early childhood contributed to that lack of love?
So it's definitely what you like. The root of everything we talking about is this self love, knowledge of self, all of that. Like you
Mhm.
have to understand how to love. Like it's like a skill. Like it takes a long time too. You have to be able to do that in order to have it like a destination. You have to have a destination in order to have a relationship, build a family, have goals. Like this stuff is not just like some passive thing. And I think that's what maybe our generation specifically sees dating as, and like this trivial thing just to talk about. It's like, nah, yo, like that's the entire point of life
Mhm.
is love, family, community, all of that. So in order to do that, you have to build a foundation over your entire life. And it starts from childhood. It's even before that, it's like prenatal. Like how much attention did you get from the male figure in your life while your mother was pregnant?
Mhm.
How much face-to-face eye contact did you get when you was a newborn? How much interaction did you have with your cousins when you was a little kid? Like all of that matters. So when it comes to that, it's not really in your control, but what's in your control is like how you react to love that comes to you. And I would say like roughly 6 to 7 out of 10 people in our generation is rejecting love all the time.
That's what I was just about to
That
ask.
matters. That's
Yeah,
like the
how
most
many of
important
you
thing.
grew up with your dad or a male figure?
I grew up with male figures who were present, but not like this thorough love thing that I'm talking about. Like, I guess I got real personal, but my father loved me and did his best. But the best is not always optimal for what life requires. Like, we are very genetically programmed to work a certain way, and love has a code to it, and you have to do it a certain way for it to work.
Mhm.
And that way is sacrifice, compromise, grit, integrity, like all of that goes into it. And if you don't have that, even if that 1% is missing, like something's gonna be dysfunctional.
Mhm.
So for me, it's a matter of like understanding that I had the example of a positive role model in my life through my father and other figures. But in terms of like that real vigorous love thing, I know what it feels like, but I have to really work hard to recognize it in the world and like receive it well. I could say that in the past, I was very rejecting of all this type of love because it felt weird. It felt dangerous, threatening, all of that. Like a lot of time with men, like we don't want to emotionally connect because it feels like that can be a threat to us. And love, I mean, that
A
really
threat
is what it
how?
is.
Tell me more.
Love can be like so throttling and so involving and consuming
Mhm.
that we don't want to do with like
So it's like
anything like that.
jarring.
Yeah, and it's because we are programmed, especially like let's say the last 30 years, to just focus on careers and like personal development and advancement to what ends. But in terms of love and family, like that's a totally different, like it's like in the rear view. So when we feel that, we like, whoa, wait, like that's too real.
Mhm.
Like it's too stimulating. Like some people have
Mhm.
never really felt like what love really is. And it's like, yo, if you felt that before, like, it's kind of crazy. It feels great and amazing, but it's like a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
So if you don't have the example for that and then it suddenly comes to you, you're gonna reject it. And then the person who's giving it is gonna be like, what happened, like I was giving you everything and you rejected it.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm jaded. And now the next person that comes into my life, I'm gonna do the same thing to them. So it's like a domino
Right.
effect.
It's a cycle. Did you two grow up with your fathers?
It was on and off. Like honestly, like paternal figures, like they came off more like reflections of myself. Like I had more like brotherly figures. It didn't matter about like the material age behind things. Like when I seen them, it's like, all right, bro, like, like you doing good, bro. Like vice versa. Like, but I like Red was saying, I tried not to like feed too much into replicating or even really being parented by them because of how the context was set up, how they was dealing with my mother and my peoples around me, my maternal figures that was there 24/7. So now I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, all right, bro, you kind of like you if it came off more like I was being disillusioned for real. Like I was like, all right, every time I see you, it do feel like I'm watching somebody put on an act. It
Facts.
feel like
Okay.
you pretending to be like the man type shit, but I could see something. I could see like, bro, you not.
Something's off.
Yeah, I'm like, you not that all day.
What was off?
It's a lot of things. It comes to how things is carried in the house, how the house is operating. Like you was talking about, the direction don't just stem to the woman in the household, it stems to the children. Like if I'm watching you and I'm looking at the map, like we all looking at the map, we on battle plan time, and you make a dickhead decision, and because of your ego, you're not able to address that
Own
type
that.
of
You
yeah.
gotta
You're
Let's
not.
own
get
it.
into ego.
I can't respect you as like a superior, like period. It don't matter if
Mhm.
it's in the workplace, the home, whatever the fuck.
Mhm.
That is critical to my survival. So now my
Mhm.
survival instinct is literally battling your
Mhm.
Exactly,
ownership.
bro.
Like, and that's what I want to speak to that. I said that specifically. It's an ownership thing.
What you mean,
Sometimes,
like father to child?
yeah, with
Okay.
some relationships, specifically in the black community, because of how we were genetically programmed because of slavery and all these systems that were specifically oppressive, like this overseer mindset, like
Yeah.
infiltrated the nuclear family.
Yeah.
Like the nuclear family is a lot of niggas trying to replicate, honestly, like TV because I'm post generation that had TV. I'm post generation that had the media. Niggas had rappers. Like I see you trying to be a fake rapper in my house. Like I'm like, what the fuck is you like doing? Like, and so just battling all that shit, it really let me find God for real. Like I'm gonna deviate a little bit, but I'm going there. Like love brought me to God because it was like, all right, now I'm in a place where if I'm focused on my survival, I'm focused on my spiritual survival. I have to find these reflections intentionally. Now I got to start looking for the places where, okay, this is my specific issue. This is the specific reflection that I can find an answer to. So it took me to a higher place because love definitely in that sense was scary as shit. It's like, bruh, it feel like you be the next nigga to try, like, you feel me? Like, lil bro me for real. Like, you not like my father. You like a nigga trying to lil bro me. And it's like, bruh, I'm not fucking with that because I don't know your plan.
Right.
I don't know
And
your
I don't
system.
trust you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That.
So did you grow up with your father?
No, I didn't. I mean,
Okay.
he was around, but like not actively in my life. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? Like I said, I moved from Brooklyn to Jersey, South Jersey. It was just me, my mom, and my brother.
Mm.
So it wasn't until like I got to college, post grad, like when I'm starting to explore like romantic relationships, that I'm looking around like, damn, like well, growing up, there were no real
Examples.
positive male influences in like a romantic relationship that I would want to emulate. You know what I'm saying? When I looked around me, I'm like, damn, I actually don't know any like married, thriving
literally,
people,
bro.
even in my family too. Like there's anomalies. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But
And-
it's like, and I saw my mom growing up as a single mother raising three boys. You know what I'm saying? It's like she never even brought dudes around. You know what I'm saying? Rarely. You know, and if they did, she would not to say she would find some way to mess it up, but like she would think it's too good to be true.
Oh,
too.
your mother would.
You know, I mean, I'm
Ooh.
sure it might be the guys
Okay.
too, but my mom she was so
Protection.
reserved. Yeah, she was so
Yeah.
guarded. Like I'm not
That
bringing no one.
PTSD is
I'm
real.
not bringing no one close to
Facts.
these boys because I don't even know where this is gonna go. I don't want to. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's like, but that same emotion of her being so guarded and reserved for all those years, it's like it was passed down to us.
Yeah. I
Mm.
want
So
what I'm
now
saying?
you're reserved.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me go off this point of
ahead.
emulation. That is so critical for males. That's how we survive. Like this is ancient human type shit. we copy the men that's around us. It don't even have to be our father. We need examples in the tribe of who to copy. And I must have grown up just like you, bro, because I ain't have a single example that was like, I'm gonna do it just like that. And if you look in society, you can't even really find that either. I have a list of like 20 to 30 black males of who I would love to emulate. Half of them is dead. Half of them have some kind of flaw that I'm like, I wouldn't do it that way. But other than that, it's spooky out there.
So
like
you
it's
don't
nothing.
see you don't see examples.
No, I take bits and pieces everywhere I go. And that's the way I grew up. I'm like, I'm not going to do it this way. I would do it that way. I remember as a little kid thinking it's like, I'm not going to parent this way. I'm going to definitely do it a different way. And when it comes to relationships, my first real relationship taught me that I'm basically repeating the things that I saw as a child. And from that relationship, I learned from my next one, like, okay, like here's where I pick up the pieces and change it. But that's like, because I'm seeing things, you know, like I'm copying what I saw as a child and as like a young man. So now that I'm at this point in my life, it's like, okay, now it's up to me. Like I can't really, I'm looking around and there's nobody to copy. So it's time to like build it up myself.
Yeah.
And that's a long journey. And I mean, I trust myself to do it, but like men need examples in order to do anything. Like that's why there's always the argument about like, is hip hop like bad for the community? Is like all this representation, is it truly indicative and representative of us? Or is it a bad example for the youth because they gonna copy it? For women, it's a totally different story. Like y'all have this like intuitive sense of how to love. Men, like we gotta learn that and we have to like literally take notes.
Yes, but I do want to challenge that a little bit because of bell hooks, right? And I think in society, we say like women naturally know how to love, women naturally know how to nurture. And I think that's a nature versus nurture question. Like, I think we're all born knowing how to love, knowing how to give, knowing how to nurture. But throughout life, it's poured into us more. Like, you got to be the wife, you got to cook, you got to clean. You know, you want to be a princess, your Prince Charming has to come get you. So naturally, we like just think about love more often, and like our lives kind of revolve around it, right? Like we go to college, like, okay, am I gonna find my husband here? Like, you know what I mean? So I think naturally, because we think about it more often and we live in it more often, it has become a norm to say like we're better at it or it's more natural for us. But I think it's just a nature versus nurture question.
Yeah, I want to speak to that point and I want to tie two together actually, because the disillusionment wasn't only paternal, like it was definitely maternal as well, because my mother carried it a little different. Like I ain't gonna lie, like after my father and shit like that, I'm a youngin', I'm seeing niggas I don't even know, bro. Like in my house, food. I'm like, I don't know what my instincts is on, but I'm like, bro, I want to wreck you. Like I don't like you. Like I'm fucked up about it, and I'm voicing that. I'm expressing that to somebody that is romanticizing the concept. Like there's different versions of love as I've learned recently. And what I believe you was just touching on was how it's given to women in this romanticized format. Like, yeah, the Prince Charming joint. The like, all right, y'all gonna find a happy home and everything is gonna be straight after that. Everything's straight once you get a man. And it's like really operating around women that like believe that shit like on a full basis as a child, bruh, you end up fucked up because it's like, bruh, everybody get romanticized. You realize it's not necessarily like selective process. It's not as discerning as it should because now that's a desire. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
These desires start to seep into other lanes, and like when you specifically a son of a mother, you are part of her discernment. Like that's how I see it. Like
You her choice.
yeah, you her choice, and not only that, like you inform her other decisions now. Like how your mother changed her lifestyle based on y'all. Like you can inform her decisions, and that's a spiritual process as well. Like some of the things you say, you don't even know why the fuck you saying it, but you like, Mom, like I don't know what the fuck it is, but I hate this nigga. Like I don't know what it is. Like, and then later down the line, it's like you end up in a fucked up situation. Now your mom arguing with a random nigga and you trying to figure out, all right, do I have to like catch a body before I'm even like, you hear me? Before I'm a teenager, bro. Like, cause what the fuck am I told now? She told me I'm supposed to be there. She told me I'm supposed to be the man. You feel what I'm saying? Like, so it feed from both sides. Like the matriarch can definitely still disillusion us because of those concepts, because of not really understanding the fluidity of love. You feel me?
And also because I feel like a lot of women treat their sons like their man. Like because you don't have a man, now this is your little man. Like that's weird. And now,
Especially in the Black community, that happens
especially,
all the time
yeah.
because we are trained to have to pick up ourselves and do our own. Like that's what men are supposed to do, right? But in a Black community, we getting that from the time we 4 or 5 years old. Dead ass, like 4 or 5 years old, we expected to be emotionally mature. We supposed to be present in a way that's like poised and strong.
But
like
still can't show
put
your
chest
emotions.
Nah, not the negative ones, because now that's someone else's problem.
Or
You're
not the
supposed to deal
weak
with that.
ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you could show anger, you could show rage. You know,
Even then, any negative
about to say.
emotion from men for the most part gets punished, especially like society, let's call it. Those things will punish negative emotions because now it's somebody else's problem. If you internalize it, nobody gives a fuck because you the one dealing with it. If it's like positive emotions, it's like, okay, you're supposed to be happy. Like I'm providing for you, you're supposed to enjoy this. But when it comes to negative emotions, now that it's like a burden of somebody else, they gonna put it back on you, especially Black men. Like nobody else really has this. Black men get everything like turned against them because we, the ones that is really like built for this shit, that's meant to persevere. Like we just genetically built for that shit. In our history, all of that is just perseverance. So from little boys, they expect that from us. But it's like, yo, that has to develop. We are built for it, but not from the time we that young. And especially when it comes to love and stuff, it's like you're supposed to know how to build a family, be in a relationship. You got to learn those things and you have to have examples for them.
Ooh, okay. Can I tell y'all what I learned in therapy this morning? And this is very vulnerable for me to say, but I'm going to say it because I think it's crucial to our conversation because I want to get into women now, right? So I'm in therapy this morning. We're having a conversation and, you know, we're talking about like why I hate men. And I don't hate y'all. I really don't. But obviously it stems from my dad. So I grew up with my dad, my both parents in the house. And me and my dad have a great relationship. Like he's a great guy. But obviously, like you said, there are some things that he's learned throughout his life that are triggering, that are not positive, that are affecting the people around him, right? So today I learned that to heal that relationship with my father, I try to do it through men, right? Through the relationships that I have with men. And then so that means like, and I just had this thought today, like, wow, I've been using men to heal myself, right? But on the same hand, the issue is that when I'm looking to heal myself through these men and I'm looking for my father in these men, I'm looking for the negative traits of my father in these men, right? So I'm finding these negative men to heal myself, but it further perpetuates my feelings towards men. And then it also makes me more resentful to my own father because I'm like, see, it's because of you. You know what I mean? So what do you all think that women need to be more cognizant of when dating men that are growing up with these sentiments?
Got to be realistic and accountable when it comes to every man that you come in contact with. You got to look at your choices for one. You got to be more mindful of your choices and be like, what's really attracting me here? Is it some material surface level thing? Or is it something about the way he's acting or the way he says something to me or something he said that's kind of like pulling you in? That's kind of the magic, I guess I'll say, of men is that we can use pretty much anything to pull people in. It can be something real negative. And in fact, that works a little better, like toxicity, let's say. That's very attractive because it's something that's like, what's up with that? Like, let me fix that. Or let me see like why he's doing that. How is he able to do this to me? And this is where y'all ego comes in. Cause you like, well, if he's able to do this to me, he must have something going on where he can afford to do that. And I want to see what that's about. Like, what can he afford? Why can he afford that?
I feel like it's more so that like when I see like a man and I'm like, I like instantly when I meet men, anybody, period, I'm reading you. I'm like, okay, I can see the trauma here. I can see where you have some toxicity here, right? And I'm like, well, let me fix that. And that is ego, because who am I to fix you, first of all? But secondly, it's also the healer in me. Like I like to help people heal. And I also like to heal myself, right? So I'm like, okay, this is gonna be my little project. Let me fix them. But yeah, they don't get fixed and I get more broken.
Because you fixing them a certain way. Like you using like your own toolbox. You know what I'm saying? Like you approaching it with the mindset of like, I'm going to fix it using my skills that I know. But really there's like an unlimited amount of tools that you could use to fix somebody. But at the end of the day, you're not supposed to do that at all. You're supposed to, when it comes to love, like real love, it's like, I love you for who you are, including the flaws.
Right. But I try to use love. Like I'm like, hey, if I just pour a whole bunch of love right here into this, maybe they'll heal. But it's just it's goes back to what you said where they're like, oh no, this is too much love and now I'm scared.
Because love can also be difficult to discern between like what is love and what is like attention or like lust.
Lust,
Mm-hmm.
That's the one,
infatuation.
especially young people,
Yeah.
because our instincts drive us towards other people to like learn them. But it's like, yo, that might not really be love. It might just be lust, and it might just be like, it might just be enjoyable and fun.
Mhm.
And if you pour too much love, let's say, you over investing in somebody that's like, y'all just not really compatible. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what that love bombing thing is. You run into
Yeah.
somebody, it's like y'all click a lot and you pour in love into each other, but it's really like you pour in affection and attention into
Mhm.
each other. And the reason you so connected oftentimes is because there's like this,
Stimulation.
yeah, and the stimulation is driven oftentimes by something negative.
Yeah.
Like, especially in your case, you saying
Yeah.
like you driven to people that's flawed in a way that's familiar.
Right.
And it's like, well, love a lot of time too is supposed to be novel. It's like, this thing is totally new to me, but that's what I love about it. And I want to learn more about it rather than like, I want to do some homework.
Right. Right. Like this is a project for me.
Yeah.
What do you two think is women need to work on or consider?
I think it's just like accepting that part of yourself, like being conscious of it for real. Cause I don't think it's nothing wrong with the intuition to want to like heal people in your relationships. I think that's like the spiritual call behind everything. Like, all right, this is like magic. Like we talking about, like, bro, this is real life magic, bro. Like you're entering a field of somebody else's emotional spectrum. That's a certain type of material. Like I said earlier, that's a metaphysical resource, bro. You can real
Yes.
life use that to combine and do alchemy on a whole different level.
Yes,
Like you can really, you feel me, break your shit down, go through your mind, do all that shit that you trying to do, heal your traumas, but it has to be done consciously and with open communication. Like there's safety rails and guards around that process that I just feel like aren't followed on a regular basis because of how lust and everything like that makes love look. Like I'm gonna bring it back to romanticism again. Romanticism is a very specific concept. It's
Yes.
it's a European concept. It's based off Rome.
Rome.
It's Roman language. Like when people are struggling to get things out specifically from the diaspora and like through English, when you're trying to voice emotions that your ancestors are giving you, concepts that your ancestors are giving you, English filters out like
Yeah, we don't have the
90%.
words.
Yeah, it filters out 90% of that shit. And you get to a point of frustration, a point of conflict, and people, I think, hit something else where it's like they think they're addicted to the conflict. Now it's like, I just happen to love fucking fighting. Like,
Right.
nah, and really you don't, bro. You love the idea of getting where you trying to go. However, you're stagnating yourself now. Now there's other spiritual points like nodes along your path that you're gonna miss out on because now you're fighting this never ending war. Basically, you on some Israel shit. Like you like, yeah, nah, this where I'm at. Like this where I'm at.
It's just
and
like
this
a cycle.
exactly, and this how I be, and this how you be, and it's
Yup.
not that because, and for example, in each of your relationships, like bro, that was probably like a completely different type of nigga on the unconscious side as well. Like you saw that conscious part
Right.
and you did pin that down, but there was so many things surrounding that on the unconscious side and
the
that
iceberg.
shadow realm. Yeah, it's just hiding
Mhm.
back there. And that's the part that's really fucking with you. That's the part that's coming around and just smacking the top of your head like, yeah, you ain't know that though.
Yup.
You get what I'm saying? Like,
Definitely, definitely. And how about you? So, what do you think women need to be more conscious of when dating men?
I think women just, for me, I think it's similar to what Toon said. It's like they'll take for face value what they see, but I think it's like women need to understand the nuances of a man, right? Because I think what meets the eye may catch your attention, but it's like, yo, there's so much more behind the scene that, and I think part of that problem is like a give and take is that men are so reserved that it's like it's hard for us to naturally open up to those sides, to the dark side. You know what I'm saying? We always want to show the good, but it's like, because I think part of it too is like men, we have a hard time opening up to those, to our past, to our experiences, you
Mhm.
know? So it sounds bad, but like, I think one, women need to, just try to understand the bad parts of them. Cause like you said, love is unconditional, right? It should be the good and the bad,
should be.
the ebbs and the flows. But I also think like patience, and I'm not saying women aren't patient. I'm not saying they aren't because women are way more patient than men. but I also think grace too.
Yes,
I
you're
think
right.
grace.
You're right about grace because this
I
is what
think
happens with
grace.
me. Like,
Yeah.
I look at a
Give
man,
niggas
he'll be
grace,
cool,
please.
and I'm like, oh, a
Put that on
flaw.
a
I
bumper
knew he
sticker,
wasn't
bro.
shit.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, I should have been a little bit more graceful
Yeah,
there.
it's like, yo, we're not perfect, you
I'm
know? And I don't think
Mhm.
we try to portray ourselves to be, but it's like we are almost expected to
Expected
be
to be
perfect,
facts.
you know? Flawless.
And I
almost.
mean, granted, like one way to definitely bridge this whole conversation is to conceptualize everything. Like when we let the concepts be concepts, we take this polarity that we've been talking about and we let it be neutral again. Like we can keep separating it into men and women be like this and men be like that and women be like that. But at the end of the day, like as spirits, that's the degendered version of this whole situation. Like as spirits, all right, what are you fucking looking for? Like, cause as a man, bro, like I would be lying if I was saying like as a teenager, I'm like, bro, I'm on some bullshit. I'm like, bro, I see the physicality. I see what's up. I see what's up. I see what's up. This makes me look fucking sweet. Like, and that's the end all be all. Then it's over. Like, that's me looking at the physical. You feel what I'm saying? That's me looking at what's manifested as what it is. That's me being surface level to my own detriment, to the ones I'm involved with detriment. Like, and when I degender that idea, then I'm able to see it in that other person in a positive connotation too. I'm able to see it in myself in a negative connotation and realize go fix it. You get what I'm saying?
So, okay, I want to ask you all this. Let's get into gender roles.
No.
Do y'all have like a woman has to do this? Because I'll be the first to say, I don't cook. I do not cook, and I don't want to. I want a man to cook.
It gotta be roles in terms of like compromise. They don't have to be gender specific.
Right, the
but
woman does this and the man does that.
it has to be some kind of compromises though.
Okay.
Like, for example, I know how to cook, but if somebody knows how to cook in a relationship, like they kind of expected to do that, right? But if I know how to cook, that means that I'm not looking for somebody else to fill that, but I am looking for them to fill something else if I'm bringing this to the table. Like they love that conversation of like, what do you bring?
Right.
That's important because it's a matter of like compatibility. It's a matter of convenience. Like you want to be with somebody who makes it easier on y'all to live. So if you don't bring nothing to the table and I bring a lot, then obviously it's like it's uneven. So in terms of like gender roles, there are like natural things that men and women are more inclined to do. But in a modern society where gender is like kind of neutralized, we can do different things, but there has to be compromise in a relationship.
So
there has
there's
to be.
nothing that you're like, my woman has to do this.
Oh, nah, for sure. But
Like
it's
what?
more of like on an emotional level. Like
Okay.
women have to be like, for me, like a good listener. I'm big on conversation. A woman has to be able to keep up with what I'm talking about, contribute to the conversation, has to be emotionally supportive in terms of like support me in times where I just need support, not like a therapist, not like none of that, but somebody who's just gonna be like a foundation, like a earth they call it. So for me, it's somebody that's like, can you pick up where I need you to pick up? And that's like not always gonna be so constant, but like when I need it, I need that. And it's because I'm doing my own thing. And like that's my role as a man is to like to do my path, like to do go towards my goal. I'm gonna do that regardless. So when it comes to the woman in my life, you gotta be fully supporting that goal. And that's your role. And unfortunately in society now it's like people are instructed to have such individualistic goals and women are instructed to have like the career path type thing, which like is fine, but it's gonna take away if you want to be in a relationship from like an overall goal. Like you say you wanted the man to like be leading in a sense, right? It can't really be two leaders. Like in a football team, you can't have two quarterbacks going back and forth. It's chaos. But you can have a backup, but you gotta have like your star. And historically, it's been men. And throughout history, like genetically, it's supposed to be that. It's like the men is kind of like built to be the warrior, let's say. And not that the woman has to be like cooking, cleaning, all of that. Like that's kind of trivial. But the woman definitely has to be like something a man could fall back on. And to use that example, like men don't really want to cook and clean if we out there fighting. So like it's just helpful if y'all have these like roles that make it easier on us. Like we don't want to come home and it's like more
Now I
battles I
gotta
gotta
cook,
fight.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think to speak to your point, like energetically, that conflict is something that I find like women try to bond with us through, like because they are looking at us on this like, all right, this is what this creature does. This is what, you feel me? They really settling into like patriarchal views unconsciously. Like they're realize understanding the system and they're adapting to the system, not realizing that as a people in the diaspora, we're not in the fucking system. Like we don't
Not built
have to
for
do
it.
that. Yeah, we're not built for that shit. Like we have different goals and different aspirations that as a community, we should all be moving towards. Like, and yes, we can have our individual strains, but a tree is still branching in a general direction. It's not for us to be fighting about like, all right, who's leading this and who's leading that. You know who's leading already. Your
That's the
body.
tricks.
Yeah.
It's to make us think about these things.
Exactly, because it's like we talking about a primal part now. Like instead of us keeping in the soul realm, all right, on our materialized versions, how do we fit together? As you was just describing, you're describing what you fuck with in a person and a partner. You feel what I'm saying? You happen to be a man. You happen to understand it. You want that in a woman. Like, but that woman does not necessarily, you feel me? The package or the definition of a woman does not necessarily like have those attributes. That happens to be the filters that is going to filter somebody in your life that's like that. And vice versa for you. Like, you feel me? Your attributes, so the negatives that you was looking at was how you was filtering people into your life to fulfill that goal, to fulfill that specific thing. But it's not attached to their gender. Like that's your trend and that's your pattern because that's your goal. Like,
and I'll say this, if you love a man enough, you're going to learn how to cook. Like that's just the way that it goes. Like you want to do things for somebody you love. Like there's a lot of things that I learned how to do. It's like, I bet like you want that. I gotta re-up my game. Like that's how men are naturally, like to keep up in it. But with women, like y'all love to do that. Just like everything is for you. Everything is just, I want to support you in every way. And just like right now, maybe you don't want to do something like cooking. It's trivial, but it's like, you gonna want to do that if you got the man that's like, I trust and believe in him.
That's facts. Yeah. If somebody, okay, I'll tell you this. In a lot of my relationships, because I have such a strong personality and because I'm a leader and because I really trust myself and my own intuition, I find that not in all, but in a lot of the relationships that I've been in, I've been the leader. I've been the lead, the alpha. And I don't like that because then I can't operate in my feminine energy. Now, if I do find someone where I can't operate in my feminine energy, maybe that is something that I'd be open to doing. But it's not often where I find a man, because he hasn't had a positive example of how to lead, that he can lead me. So I'm often leading.
And you also...
Yes, he's gotten the chance. Like, it's not, I don't come in it like, okay, I'm just gonna take the show. I come in and I'm myself, and you naturally, like you said, you've naturally fall into whatever situation that you're going to be in.
And it's also who you attract too. Like who you're attracting is these type of dudes. Like that's fake how it goes. Is like if you attracting a guy and like you feel it's real compatible, it's because it's familiar. And for whatever reason, your strong personality is going to attract a guy that likes a strong personality where he can submit, which is not.
Yeah, I'm never doing that again. I mean, there have been situations where I'm like, okay, let me sit back and let him lead. And then you lead me off the cliff. Like, you don't lead me in the right direction.
Because he's not a natural leader.
Exactly.
Like, there's men who is just not natural leaders or don't have a spine, who don't have no drive, no ambition. That's most dudes right now. Like, men is struggling in society right now. It's bad. Okay. And everything they say, like, when women is talking shit about men, I'd be like, yeah, like that's how it is. That is how it is. But I mean, it's not me. But when it comes to like what society shapes men into, like they broken right now. So most of the men you're gonna run into, like that's how it's gonna be. They might have like something on the surface that is either attractive or it looks nice, you know, but all that glitters is not gold. And it's definitely not gold with most of these dudes right now because they don't have like that deep integrity and like that thoroughness that you need in order to be a man, in order to lead a family, just to have a basic relationship, to have a fun night.
So then that leads us back to where we started. These young men that are watching need examples. Women like me want to get married and have kids. What are we supposed to do?
You're supposed to be.
But there's none. But there are none.
There's not none.
You
gotta be patient. I said 9 out of 10. I said 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10. So that 1 out of 10 is married already.
These are statistics. Let's not do this.
Yeah.
Let's step back.
I'm just saying, what do you suggest a woman does?
You got to put yourself in situations to find that right dude. You got to
Yeah.
be in places where your ideal man would be at. So that doesn't mean like, let's say like the spot. Like you can't go to a club expecting to find a dude that's going to be like a family man type person. Whatever like you really into, there's going to be somebody there. Like that's how I personally do it. Whenever I'm like trying to do something like out of my comfort zone, I always find somebody that's like, oh, like this was kind of the reward of me doing this was somebody who's out of my realm of comfort, but who also is like supplemental to that goal that I'm trying to reach. So that's how I do it. I put myself in situations where it's like I want somebody who goes to things like this and who has like a parallel path and similar goals. And that's how I find people who are compatible, like not just relationships, but friends as well. So women got to put themselves in situations where it's like, you're not gonna find all the ballers or whoever at certain spots, but you're gonna find a guy that's like real thorough. And that's what you really want. And you gotta look deeper than like what's on the surface. And you gotta like feel. That's what love really is. Is like, how do you feel about this? How does this person make you feel? Like, is what they're saying really impacting you? Because that really is what supersedes all of this noise. Because at the end of the day, it's noise. And that's why I said patience. Because if you patient, things will come to you. Like all of that manifesting, all that energy, like all I deserve is mine. Like that should sound kind of corny, but it's true.
It
Like
is
that's
true.
exactly how it is.
It's
It
true.
really does work that way. And you don't even have to wait that long, honestly. Like you have to just have your mind focused on what you want. You could draw it on a piece of paper. You could write it down, be like, I want him to be like this. Not so much of like the material aspects of it, but like, what's his character like? You will find that person because you just got to identify what you want them to look like and what you can do to attract somebody like that. And you will find it.
That's the key right there. Doing the work in yourself to attract someone like that. Okay, I want to ask you all a question.
Before you
Go
go
ahead.
to it, I want to say like we've been discussing it as like a learning ground, like a learning opportunity, and forming certain skills and forming certain character traits through each other. Using that as a catalyst to like circle back to your initial question. You said you was learning the people, you was studying them, you reading them up and down. You like, yeah, this mean this mean that. But there's a language you can learn as well. Like there's not just the people and you feel me, how these things transmute onto onto their person that you should be really focusing on because that's the outside shell. It could be a million reasons why the person is wearing that watch. There could be a million reasons why the nigga got a haircut. There could be a million reasons why the nigga is sitting in the space. You feel what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, you're trying to figure out the intentionality behind this shit. You're not just going to focus on, all right, this is how he presenting. This is how I know niggas like that present because that is the shadow misleading you. That is real life. You feel me? There's the side where it's like, yes, the magic can lead you and attract you to everything you need, but it's also the like, it's the mischievous side. It's like, nigga, you think it look like this? Watch this. Like over and over again. And it'll play in your face if you
It's
do
a
that.
trick.
Like it'll really play in your face because you taking an infinite concept and you allowing your human conception to dictate how it reads. And that's not real. That's none of this
That's
is.
true. Yeah, I definitely could be more objective. Like look at it from outside myself and my experiences, but it's like it's kind of hard to remove those biases that you already have. You know,
It's supposed to
Those
be
not
hard.
gonna
Though.
be
It's supposed to
easy.
be a challenge if you really want it. It's supposed to be the ultimate reward. Like life, the ultimate reward is true love. Like if you get unconditional love from the opposite sex, like you won the jackpot.
No, for real.
Facts. Okay, so my question is this. So, okay, I have a house, right? I have a house, got my own car, pay my own bills, I'm working, whatever, right? When I got my house, my granny said to me, you need to slow down, Summer, because these men are not gonna be able to keep up. And I was like, Granny, why would you say that? But then it hit me. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's right. Because
Yeah.
obviously, naturally, I want a man that can be on my level or above.
higher.
Right, or above.
How
There's
is that
not
going to
much-
be? Because right now, like this is a deeper thing too. Like right now, men are deprioritized in terms of like the career path thing. Let's say like the last 5 years or so, women is more encouraged to go to college. They graduating at higher rates. They more ambitious towards like generating money. Like this is the first time in history it's really been like that. Men is taking the back seat, doing their own thing, which is like who knows what that is. So that's gonna filter out a lot of these dudes. But at the same time, it's like women want a man that's making more than them, but there's very few of those men.
Right.
And instead of like dating down, let's call it, a lot of women are willing to effectively share a man that
Oh,
has several
hell no.
options rather than, like
I'd rather
equalizing.
settle than share.
Would you rather
Both of those sound
what
crazy.
feels like
It
They
is,
both
and
do.
it is.
It
would you rather do what feels like dating down and potentially find the person you're looking for, or settle, or what does settling feel like for you?
You mean dating down knowing that there's potential there?
right? Because I feel like
Potential for love.
well, I mean, for love, yeah, for love. But I feel like, society tells us that like a man would date down. A man could date down from a woman who has, let's say, not to say nothing, but less going for her, and the man will help build her up.
Because it
to
don't
his-
matter to us.
Right.
But
I'm
I
saying,
find that men don't often have to date down because you all have so many options. Like,
I know, but I'm just saying, I'm playing devil's
Most men don't
advocate
got
with
options,
the
though.
the notion that like a man would do it, but a woman wouldn't do it.
I
How do you feel about that?
have dated down and I mean like in the sense of financially and also in the sense of like emotional intelligence. I don't want to do it ever again, and I won't do it ever again. But finding someone where they're up
Above you.
is,
mean, we all
and
want
I'm
that.
not even being arrogant when I say that, but it's very rare.
I think these scales, like, let's go back. Like, these scale, like everything we've been talking about, external things, out of body experience, learning, love, all of this being tied together. But to then take all of that and then place it on this scale where it's up and down, our up and down are literally being defined by material objects right now. We're talking about up and down on the financial scale, which, yes, can be an indicator of how somebody is handling house and home and community and handling all these things. But at the same time, if you realize you're trying to up and down your spirit and not your like financial situation, when you're thinking about dating down, as you calling it, like you're in a situation where you're trying to fulfill a specific part of you still. That part is not going to be answered if that mission's not complete. It's more directional than it is like, you feel me? Like,
Nah, I feel what you're
So
saying.
look,
do,
I have
do.
5: spiritual, emotional, mental, physical, and financial. Those are the 5 things that I look at. For me, spiritual is most important. Is there a spiritual connection? But those other 4 are equally important. Am I being mentally stimulated? Do you have emotional intelligence for us to have a conversation? Physical, am I physically attracted? And that's number 4. That's one of the least. And then financial.
The
Can you
fifth
find
one, the financial thing, is the one that's the most difficult and the one that's most indicative to many people in this system of like quality, which is a total lie if you ask me. Financial wealth is totally representative of your class and therefore your
not
race.
financial wealth, but just do you know how to manage money? When you get some money, how are you spending
That's
it?
also
because as a
representative
leader,
of class.
yeah, it is.
And that's
It's-
not in our control. Like no matter what we do, like we
But
are
there are
born
things
into
that you
a
could be
class.
taught. Like I didn't know how to manage money. I went and figured that out. I went and read. I took some classes. I talked to financial advisors. I'm like, how do I manage my money? Because I'm spending, and I need to be saving, putting it away. There's things that I want to do in my future that children, what if they want to go to college?
And that's because you have this type of spirit. But let's like you say you wanted a guy that's like above you financially. A lot of women also want to be represented equally or paid equally in terms of that. So it's like, how are y'all gonna be paid equally or represented equally, but also have men that make more than you? Like it literally just can't work that way.
I don't necessarily need him to. I mean, it would be nice, but it's not mandatory for me.
I want to go back to what you're saying. Like, you talking about how he handles what's in his domain more than you talking about
And
his actual
his
income.
ambition to get more.
I'm knowing. But I'm saying, like, you talking about how he handles his kingdom, how he handles his sovereignty. Those resources, if he does not place his values in a literal currency format, it could be easy to be deceived by that. There's other resources that are around, the food, the like the actual production of your lifestyle can be tailored to other resources. The shit you're looking for your career to advance. There's other things that can be provided, the metaphysical resources, the journeys, like these things, although they're not your tangible currency, are still your resources, the attainment of new knowledge. If you're talking about a man that's intelligent, if this nigga spend all day fucking getting books, this nigga might not be doing the other shit. But, and I'm not saying you should settle, bro. Like, no funnies. Like, I really feel like you can't have it all, but you do need to be conscious of what the most common archetype is gonna be in each of those lanes so that you can really balance those and how those are coming into fruition. Because a nigga that's balancing his finances is different than a nigga that's flourishing financially. A nigga that's balancing his finances is balancing what he has within his means. There are plenty of those that live in the hood right now. Like I'm telling you. And it's like, it's fucked up, but it's like, because they have not subscribed to certain ideas and certain ideals, they refuse to integrate into a society that places your economic like situation around your submission. Like, and that's a real thing. Like, if you're not willing to submit to certain institutions, it's endless niggas that don't go to college because they're not trying to learn from a professor. They're learning from the people in the bush. They're learning from niggas all day. They're learning from their world all day. That's not to say they don't have that resource, but because a nigga didn't hand them a paper that says you're a good nigga, like you hear me, it don't change anything. Like,
I hear what you're saying.
and honestly, I was going to say, if you want to see it reflected, you can see that in your investments into these men too. Like just from the position that you talking about, like when you trying to lead these men and whatever, bro, you sound like you whoring these niggas, like in a good way, in a good way, in a good way. Like, you hear me? Dedicate, yeah, I'm about to say, dedicate yourself to that. Get that nigga some play money, be like, you fucked up the business, dickhead. Like,
I'm
you
not
get
doing
what
that anymore.
I'm understanding what you're saying, but I'm just saying that's one way that you would have seen that reflection quick through your fifth scale. You get what I'm saying? And still been able to use that as a means of seeing something about them. Like, damn, you can't even handle this little project. I gave you $100 to go to the store, nigga. You fucked it up.
But then now I'm operating as your mother, and I can't do that.
That's true, but we still talking within the bounds and constraints of what you've told us about, what you've been in contact with. And that's all I'm really tailoring it to. It's endless other possibilities and situations for you to step into. But if you're not trying to be above a certain level, like only reflecting with the bourgeois, which is like, that cuts out a lot of spirit immediately. Like, you gonna have to, you feel me, get your hands dirty a little bit. Be willing to work in the garden at the very least. If you ain't in the kitchen, you feel me, help something like that. You feel what I mean?
I think a lot of women need to be able to drop that financial thing, because the financial thing is the result of this system. And this system is going to lie to us and make it seem like it's the most important thing. Whereas you can get fulfillment, all of that stuff from somebody who is thorough. And when it comes to the financial thing, making money or like whatever, like that provides for some kind of ideal lifestyle, like in the future. Cause that's how we like to think, is like planning and like building for the future. I think what's more important is like hustle, ambition, like goals and stuff. If they have a true goal and a plan, like let's say they could write it down on a piece of paper and show you, that should mean way more than like how much you got right now. Like it's where you want to be, not where you at right now.
Yeah.
And if a guy can do that in a way that's like, he can prove to you, like, I know where I'm trying to go, you should be able to meet him halfway and be like, I love you as you are, and I want to be where you're at with you, like in the future. And it don't really matter like how much you bring it to the table right now. And you got to be patient in the sense that like, you got to realize right now, like everything is now, like instant gratification type shit. And it's not going to happen like that with love. Like love is there's like a quote, like love is patient, love is kind. Like it has to be like that if you really want to feel like the real thing. But right now, society tells us to get everything quick. Like you deserve this now. Like think about it like DoorDash or something. It's like, get your food right now. You even got to leave the crib.
Right.
Get that shit to your door right now. But when it comes to love and men who's also kind of like trying to find a way right now, you definitely not going to find it, but you got to be able to like, it's not even really sacrifice. You got to just be patient and like see where like the real dudes is at, who got they eyes on the future. And because we are young, we can afford to have that kind of patience. And I think many generations, pretty much every generation besides ours, has been this kind of patient and willing to see things for how they are, rather than like, I need this right now. I need money, career, family, everything, validation, check right now. But then what we gonna do in our 30s, 40s, 50s?
Right.
Like, what are we gonna do then? Just like sit around and be like, well, this was nice.
Yeah. And I do think that's where media comes into play. Like,
I would say we're in a digital age.
Convincing us to get married right now, but also that's where, like I said, growing up, we're like, okay, you gotta find your husband by 26, married by 28, babies by 30. So it's just one of those things. But y'all, I could talk about this forever.
I do want to build real quick. Let me build on what you're saying.
Build.
What everybody was just saying. Like timelines, right? Time as a concept. As we placing ourselves in this, we got to be very aware of like where the spirit lies and everything. Like the spirit is going to always lie in the present. Like the spirit is going to tell the truth, I should say, in the present. Like as you are converting energy, there's people that are converting energy in front of you. How are they converting their energy? That's how you can find the truth real fast and not even have to waste time. Well, I shouldn't call it wasting time, but as patient as you have to be, if you're looking for a quick answer, watch the present. You got to really be there because you're trying to shape your identity in relation to what you have right now. And your identity has been informed by things that you haven't agreed with and shit like that. But it's going to build out and be a lot more fleshed out if you're paying attention to the current circumstances. All right, I just walked in the door. What is happening right now? What is supposed to be happening? Or how many people are actually hearing what's supposed to be happening? Do you get what I mean by that? There's a sense, you feel what I'm saying, that you can follow in these relationships, that love and everything as a grounding state and as a communicative state is telling you the answer to half of these questions every single day and every single moment. Like, and I just think, you feel me, just to bring it back around, like, that's where, you feel me, you really should be looking.
Being tapped in, yeah. No, I appreciate that. And I appreciate each of you for your perspective and contribution to this conversation because I really do feel like I learned a lot about men and this was really helpful for me right now in this current stage right now.
It's your therapy session
yes.
part 2.
Right,
So here, look, I have gifts for everyone. Take one and pass it down.
Oh my God.
And this is just a thank you for being here today and a thank you for being open and vulnerable and having this conversation with me.
Yeah.
And like I said, I could talk about this forever. So we'll definitely have to continue these conversations, but really thank you all for being here and talking to me today.
Sure,
Thank you
for having us.
Yeah.
Having a platform we could, share some knowledge.
Yeah, and the conversations can be continued every day. I'm speaking to y'all now. You hear me? Fucking talk to the people in your house. Stop acting like,
Communication is so key, bro.
Yes.
oh God, stop
It's the
acting like
only
you gotta
thing.
get on the internet to hear
Right.
somebody say what you thinking right now. Like,
Right.
go ask somebody, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
Self-love.
Let this conversation be a starting point for dialogue for you and your family or your friends or your homeboys or homegirls, whoever it may be.
shit.